The atmosphere in the high command chamber was thick with the scent of ozone and the rhythmic thrum of the iridium moon's core. Grand Admiral Theron, 7 adjusted his ceremonial mantle, the plates of his biomechanical armor clicking softly. Before him stood the holographic representation of the Orion Arm, a sprawling tapestry of conquered worlds. The cycle of expansion demands a new sacrifice, he announced, his voice echoing through the vaulted hall. The Terran system has been analyzed. It is a chaotic mess of resources guarded by a species that spends more time fighting itself than looking at the stars. We do not go to war, we go to harvest. Kthar scientists had spent cycles studying Earth from afar. They were fascinated and repulsed by the human genome, a messy, resilient sequence that thrived in a Class 7 environment. They are biological anomalies, Chief Xenobiologist Vax reported. They survive high gravity, solar radiation, and internal parasites that would kill a Kthar in hours. Their bodies are built for endurance, but their minds are fractured. They lack the psionic unity of the Imperium. They are loud, messy, and fundamentally inefficient. Capturing their planet will provide us with the ultimate slave labor force and a strategic foothold in the Outer Rim. For 3 solar months, the shipyards of Kthar Primus worked at maximum capacity. Colossal fabricators spun nanometal into the hulls of the World Eater-class dreadnoughts. These ships were 3 kilometers long, powered by harnessed singularity cores. They weren't just vessels, they were mobile fortresses, equipped with neural link bridges where hundreds of Kthar minds merged into a single tactical consciousness. The Armada was a masterpiece of engineering, designed to be indestructible. As the final ship, the Oblivion's Edge, joined the formation, a wave of pride swept through the collective psyche of the Imperium. Theron, 7 believed in the doctrine of despair. He didn't just want to win, he wanted the humans to witness their own extinction. He ordered the fleet to jump into the Terran system in a massive, synchronized FTL burst, creating a localized spatial ripple that would knock out every satellite in Earth's orbit. He wanted the humans to wake up to a dark sky filled with alien steel. Let them see the stars vanish, Theron commanded. Let their last sensation be the realization that their gods have remained silent while their executioners arrived. As the Armada swept past the red planet, Mars, they noticed something odd. There were no human colonies there, yet the surface was littered with strange, geometric structures that didn't match human architecture. Theron, 7 dismissed them as ancient ruins. Scavengers or long-dead precursors, he muttered. Focus on the 3rd planet. He didn't notice that as the fleet passed, the ruins on Mars hummed with a low-frequency vibration, sending a burst of data, not towards Earth, but towards a point in deep space that shouldn't have existed. Approaching Earth, the Kthar fleet encountered the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF. It was laughable. A few dozen cruisers, patched together from asteroid mining ships and experimental military hulls. They were positioned in a desperate ring around the moon. They are broadcasting a message on all frequencies, Krell reported. Theron, 7 smirked. A plea for mercy? Play it. The message wasn't a plea. It was a single, calm voice, repeating a string of coordinates and a warning. You are entering a protected nursery. Withdraw immediately or face de-resolution. Theron, 7 didn't even deign to respond. De-resolution? Such primitive terminology. He signaled the Star Crusher, the fleet's flagship, to fire its primary ion cannon. The weapon drew power directly from the Singularity Core, glowing with a terrifying violet light. The beam shot forward, a lance of pure destruction aimed at the largest human cruiser. It should have vaporized the ship instantly, turning it into a cloud of expanding gas. Instead, the beam hit an invisible barrier, shattered into harmless sparks, and was absorbed by the vacuum of space itself. The shock on the Kthar bridge was palpable. The beam, it didn't reflect, Vax whispered. It was subtracted from reality. Suddenly, the space around the human fleet began to shimmer. It looked like heat haze on a desert planet. The stars behind Earth seemed to stretch and twist. Theron, 7 felt a sudden, sickening drop in his stomach, the sensation of his internal organs losing their orientation. Energy readings are off the charts. Krell screamed. The humans. They aren't using shields. They are manipulating the Planck constant. They are changing the laws of physics in our immediate vicinity. The shimmering wave hit the vanguard of the Armada. There was no sound, no explosion, no flash of light. A dreadnought, home to 5,000 Kthar, simply turned translucent. Its metal skin became clear as glass, showing the terrified crew within, before the entire structure crumbled into a fine, glowing dust that vanished into the subatomic layer. Then another ship vanished. Then 10. Then 100. They weren't being destroyed, they were being unwritten. The Imperial Armada, the pride of 1,000 years, was being deleted like a clerical error. Theron, 7 watched his tactical display with 6 eyes wide in frozen horror. Every second, dozens of green icons representing his fleet turned gray, then blinked out. The chronometer on his HUD ticked, 30 seconds. 35 seconds. 40 seconds. His flagship began to vibrate, the very atoms of the hull screaming in protest against the reality warp. We are not in a war, he realized, the truth hitting him like a physical blow. We are an infection, and the universe has just engaged its immune system. At the 47-second mark, the last ship of the vanguard vanished. The Armada was gone. Earth sat there, blue and peaceful, as if nothing had happened. Theron, 7 stood alone on the bridge of the Star Crusher. He was the only thing left. One moment, he had been surrounded by 300 elite bridge officers, the next, he was standing on a floor of shimmering, semi-transparent energy. His crew hadn't died, they had simply ceased to be part of the current timeline. He looked at his hands and saw they were flickering, shifting between solid flesh and a cloud of silver probability. The silence was absolute, more terrifying than any explosion. It was the silence of a universe that had decided the Kthar no longer belonged in it. He tried to speak, but his voice carried no sound, the air molecules were no longer vibrating to his command. Back on Earth, inside a mountain complex deep beneath the Swiss Alps, a young woman named Maya sat in a neural interface chair. She wasn't a general, she was an architect of the Sol project. Beside her, ancient machines, recovered from the ruins on Mars, hummed with an ancient power. They didn't listen, she whispered, her eyes glowing with the same iridescent light that had erased the fleet. The machines were reality engines, left behind by a civilization that had transcended physical form billions of years ago. Humans hadn't invented the weapon, they had simply found the keys to the nursery's security system. To the engines, the Kthar Armada wasn't an army, it was a foreign object, in a sterile environment that needed to be deleted. On Kthar Primus, the unthinkable happened. The holographic projections of the fleet didn't just go dark, they inverted. The symbols for the ships turned into null data, strings that began to eat through the Imperium's central mainframe. High General Krell watched as the names of thousands of noble families, whose sons and daughters served in the Armada, were systematically erased from the Imperial records. It wasn't just that the ships were gone, the records of their existence were being pulled into the void. Panic swept through the capital. If the Armada never existed, then the conquests they achieved were also in jeopardy. The very fabric of Kthar history was unraveling from the future backwards. Suddenly, in the center of the Kthar command chamber, a rift opened. It wasn't a wormhole, it was a tear in the logic of the room. Out stepped a human projection. It was Maya. She looked at the panicked Kthar leaders with a mixture of pity and sternness. You were warned, her voice resonated not in the air, but directly in their collective psionic link. We are the caretakers of this sector now. Your concept of empire is a primitive virus that the universe no longer tolerates. The 47 seconds you witnessed was not a battle. It was a cleanup. Do not send more. There is no more to send where you are going. The Kthar leaders tried to retaliate, to strike at the projection, but their hands passed through her like smoke. General Krell screamed, "What have you done to our people?" Maya tilted her head. They are being redistributed. Their atoms are being used to fuel the birth of new stars. They aren't dead, they are simply useful now. You value efficiency, don't you? This is ultimate efficiency. As she spoke, the Kthar found they were losing the ability to remember the names of the planets they had conquered. The human infection wasn't just physical, it was a conceptual wipe of their entire imperial identity. Outside the command chamber, the sky of Kthar Primus began to change. Their sun, a stable yellow star, started to flicker. The reality engines on Earth, controlled by Maya and her team, were reaching across the light years, identifying Kthar Primus as the source of the infection. The laws of nuclear fusion within the star were being edited. Stop it. Krell pleaded, falling to his knees. We surrender. We will leave Earth alone. Maya's image began to fade. It's not about Earth anymore, she said sadly. It's about the balance. You took too much. Now, the universe is taking it back. The clock that had stopped at 47 seconds suddenly ticked once more. The 48th second didn't happen in space, it happened in the hearts of every Kthar. A wave of absolute empathy washed over them. For the first time, they felt the pain of every species they had ever crushed. They felt the screams of a billion dying worlds. The psychic weight was so immense that the entire Kthar High Command simply collapsed, their minds unable to process the sheer volume of grief they had caused. The Imperium didn't fall to weapons, it fell to the sudden, brutal realization of its own cruelty. On Earth, the Sol Project team shut down the engines. The sky returned to normal, the violet ripples vanished. The few UEDF ships that had survived the initial deployment stood guard over a planet that was no longer just Earth. It was now the focal point of the galaxy. But there was no celebration. Maya stepped out of the chair, her face pale. We saved the world, one technician said. Maya looked at the monitors showing the dark space where an armada used to be. No, she replied. We changed what it means to exist. And I'm not sure we're ready for what comes next. In the outer systems of the former Kthar Imperium, ships found themselves drifting. Their navigation logs were empty. Their weapons were disabled. The soldiers on board looked at each other, not as warriors of the Empress, but as lost individuals. The hierarchy was gone. The will of Kthar had been replaced by a strange, quiet humming in their minds, a song of peace they didn't know how to sing. They were free, but they were broken. The 47 seconds had not just deleted an armada, it had deleted the very idea of war from their DNA. Years later, travelers in the Orion Arm would tell stories of the Blue World. They said that if you approached with peace, the stars would guide you. But if you approached with hate, you would simply run out of time. Exactly 47 seconds of time. Earth remained silent, a beautiful, blue nursery protected by ghosts and ancient engines, waiting for the rest of the galaxy to grow up. Maya's warning remained etched in the subspace frequencies: the universe is not a battlefield. It is a garden. Act accordingly.